Hey, you random stranger. I'm super keen to get into the next couple of episodes of Bloom Into You. But first, we're going to talk about love, about how different individuals experience it in different ways, about the complexities, I guess, of you and Touko's characters up until this point. You in particular, because I don't think I've ever seen a character written in that way. And displaying sort of these very complex undertones in their inner struggles. And then we're going to watch the next three episodes 4, 5, and 6. So it's going to be good. Thank you to those who flagged that I had actually missed the post-credit scenes from episode 1. So I did watch it. You know, the thing that struck me most is that both Touko and you trying to like brush off that brash declaration of love that seemingly came out of nowhere. You know, obviously their relationship then kept on developing from that point onwards over the next couple of episodes. But that very first declaration and Yu's confused and I would say kind of lukewarm reaction to it was a moment that really put into focus the nature of Yu's struggle. I think Yu's core struggle is less about her failing to love and more about her challenging these conventional narratives that present love as this universal, uniform human experience, which is not the case. And it may also be about potentially exploring what love can be like through an aromantic or an asexual lens. So that star that you keeps trying and failing to reach, to me, it's really a cultural construct of love. You know, this romanticized ideal of a very passionate, transformative love that a lot of modern media or literature and really society at large promises. And I was actually very touched reading Babias's comment and like real life example about how this has played out for them. Like how there was a time when they weren't really sure if they loved their partner, even though it turned out that they did. But because media in general tends to portray love as this very intense, overwhelming emotion that apparently you can recognize immediately and that everyone supposedly also experiences in exactly the same way, which again isn't the case. You know, there has never been just one way of understanding or experiencing love. It has always been this very rich and multifaceted and sort of evolving kind of thing. You know, I was thinking about this, and even each era of human history has reimagined the concept of love according to, you know, different values. For example, the ancient Greeks distinguished between eros, which is like passionate love, or philia, so this deep love between friends, and then agape, which is like this unconditional, almost like spiritual, transcendent kind of love. So love, it's not just this one thing, and nor is it just an emotion, but it's actually this very deep philosophical inquiry into how human relationships can work. If we're going to keep rolling down this path of history, the ancient Romans saw love as a political and a social construct, primarily, you know, with marriages taking place to set up these strategic political and social alliances. And then you had the medieval period, which idealized and celebrated a sort of courtly love. So yes, the ideal love was passionate, but it was also often unconsummated between a knight and a married noblewoman, which is very different. And in fact, that idea of unconsummated love was very much intertwined with like the purity of religious or divine love. And then it was really only until like the Enlightenment came around when love became sort of increasingly individualized and personalized and became about emotional compatibility and about choice. And of course, that leads us into the modern age where there has been an increasing recognition of love across diverse sexual orientations. In fact, in Bloom Into You, there were these little reminders that even today, not everyone recognizes that love between two girls is normal, you know, and can exist just as much as any other form of love, although it has become more broadly accepted, especially by the younger generations. I guess the point of me running through just how many iterations of ideal love there have been throughout history, and even today there is like a multitude of views about what love is to recognize that that star that you was so worried about never reaching is probably so far away because she is being asked, or she feels like she needs to measure her own feelings against this arbitrary standard of romance that she has been told she should be experiencing, but in fact is a standard that countless generations and countless people have reshaped and reinvented according to their own contexts. So hopefully this is sort of the start of Yu's journey of realizing that there is room for lots of other forms of love that don't necessarily conform to that dominant paradigm. So I mentioned it a little before, but Yu's experience maybe or might align with the modern understanding of love as a spectrum of experiences, with sexual or romantic attraction being just one potential component of that experience among many others. So you can have these deep platonic relationships, you can have chosen families and various forms of emotional intimacy that are also equally valid expressions of love. I think that traditional privileging of romantic or sexual relationships as the primary form of love has been gradually displaced over time. And well, actually, not over time, because in fact, it seems like we're kind of circling back to the ancient Greek understanding of love being very multidimensional, although of course modern norms are also very different to ancient ones in many other ways. While I'm not sure if the series will ever explicitly confirm that Yu is either asexual or aromantic or demisexual, you know, her journey so far resonates strongly with asexual and aromantic experiences. Now, I'm not ace myself, so I'm just speaking from what I've read in research and my friends and other people's experiences of being ace and aromantic, but Yu seems to be on that path of discovering that emotional intimacy does not necessarily require romantic or sexual attraction. That not feeling romantic passion does not diminish your capacity for developing meaningful relationships. You know, like that friend who has been signaling his interest in you for a while, whom she likes, but she doesn't really feel anything romantically for. So I think another possible interpretation of that star Yu is wanting to reach is that it represents her own authentic understanding of what emotional connection and emotional intimacy are. Yu's story isn't about failing to experience love, but about rejecting these restrictive and these normative definitions of love and kind of setting out on her own and courageously defining love on her own terms, which I think is really cool. I did enjoy how Blumenthal uses underwater imagery as a metaphor for Yu's emotional isolation and these communication barriers that she has with other people. When you're underwater, sounds are very muffled, your vision is often blurry, and it's much harder to move underwater. So when she imagines her friends underwater, she's like, I see you, but I can't connect with you and I don't really get you. It's kind of like FOMO, but for feelings. This is something T.F. Sharman picked up on too, who wrote, love aside, I think it is clear that Yu wants some kind of connection, and I would interpret her initial inability to choose which club to join as a part of that. It seems to me she doesn't feel like she belongs anywhere, and that is part of the feeling of isolation, that she's not really like the others and can't fully participate. This is further complicated by sexual identity, which is a big topic to be explored, including even more underrepresented possibilities like aro, ace, or demi. Yeah, I do think that that feeling of isolation that you brought up is brilliantly captured by the underwater motif. You know, it conveys that feeling of watching others experience things that you can't, things that are visible to you, but that you are separated from by this invisible barrier. Now, that same imagery gets especially interesting when applied to Touko. You know, you desperately wanted to know that Touko experiences love differently too. Someone who is finally on her own wavelength. I think she wanted to confirm that her own emotional landscape isn't broken or somehow, you know, unusually barren, and that it's not some sort of personal failing of hers. Even Touko's name, which was really cool to learn, plays into this underwater metaphor. So the first character, To, means transparent or like penetrating, which are qualities that are very water-like. Her name suggests that she's visible, but not fully grasped or understood, which again mirrors Touko's own struggle with her own identity and her desire to be seen by others, but yet remain sort of distant and out of reach. The wateriness of Touko's name also fits neatly into Yu's reaction when she realized that Touko is not special, that Touko is capable of experiencing romantic feelings for her, And as soon as she discovered that, Yu was just kind of thrown back into the water again. It was so super dramatic, the moment when Touko waited for the train to rush by and the colors drained away and then time seemed to slow and all you heard was like the alarm of the train signals. And that, I felt, was actually Touko's experience of the kiss. It was like her fantasy of this, again, idealized form of romantic love had materialized. But if we looked at Yu, her eyes were wide open. So it wasn't the typical super romanticized first kiss scene that we often get in romance shows. My love is a love where I want to do something like this, is what Touko said afterwards. And notice, like, as the shot is focused on Touko, we still have that like drained colors, sort of a very dreamy glow. But as soon as the color rushed back in, making this sharp return into reality, it became clear that that fantasy exists only for Touko. You remained untouched by that time stood still sort of sensation. And in fact, later when you thought back to it and reflected on it, there was nothing. There was no excitement, not even color, just grayscale, this very emotionally muted moment, whereas Touko had felt this sort of intensified excitement. Even something as tiny as you drinking from the same bottle as her left Touko a little bit like transfixed. It was like that, oh my god, we had an indirect kiss trope. But for you, there's nothing, and that really sucks for her. In fact, in the previous confession scene, I did love the detail of how when you realized Touko isn't emotionally the same as her after all, she took a physical step back. Upon discovering that Touko can in fact experience the romantic, like, feet leaving the ground feeling while she feels nothing, she was literally taken aback and disappointed, maybe even jealous. But I think even if she was jealous, it would have run much, much deeper. Her disappointment stemmed from a renewed sense of her own emotional otherness, her emotional isolation, as Sia Shaman pointed out. The loss of emotional companionship that she thought she had potentially found in Touko. That one girl everyone else seemed to think is special, but in fact to you isn't. Yu's grayscale experience of and her later reaction to the kiss was actually super revealing of one particular fascinating aspect of her character, which is this complex combination of passiveness, but also a quiet sense of agency. I don't know, maybe you could call it like passive participation. Take, for instance, how her teacher kind of manipulated Yu into joining the student council. Classic example of her getting swept along by something that wasn't her idea, but she's also not just this pushover. Once she finds herself in these situations, she sort of carves out her own space and she takes her time to observe and then adapt to the circumstances. In her relationship with Touko, it felt like that exact same pattern of passive participation. She is effectively maneuvered into being Touko's campaign manager and then into a relationship with her. But instead of a very clear acceptance or a very clear rejection, Yu creates this in-between space of curiosity. She doesn't actively pursue Touko, nor does she fully reject her advances. Apparently in everything, Yu shows this sort of intellectual curiosity or a willingness to experience something without immediately fully committing to it. She keeps these emotional boundaries up while also analyzing her own and others' feelings with this detached, almost clinical perspective. So when Akari was talking about being rejected by the basketball dude, Yu reacted very differently to her other friends. She was like, Akari's just coping and trying to convince herself that she wasn't rejected for any other reason other than it wasn't the right time. Very analytical, and she's probably right, to be fair. While her other two friends were just more typical and encouraging and supportive. I don't think Yu's particular brand of detached analysis or her passiveness is a weakness. I mean, as I speculated before, I think it's actually a form of agency. Let's just not forget, grabbing Touko's hand just to see what happens was a bold move. I feel like Yu is negotiating her own terms for engaging with people and using her experiences as a mode of self-discovery. I think she basically challenges these very simplistic narratives about passive characters. You know, she's clearly in the driver's seat of her own story. Even if she is driving like really, really carefully and sort of maintaining a safe distance from the car in front of her. And oddly, Yu's very unique sort of like passive participation is exactly what makes her attractive to Touko. So let's focus on Touko for a bit. There was this thing that she had said at the start. It was like, no matter who confesses to me, I don't intend to go out with them. And my first impressions of Touko was like this calm, collected, sort of transcendent girl, the epitome of cool, which is exactly the sort of image that Touko is wanting to portray. You know, there were all these like stylized shots of her hair blowing perfectly in the wind as you watched, just very enamored. The big question with Touko is why, as soon as she discovered that Yu does not experience romantic love in the same way that everyone else does, and is in one sense emotionally unavailable, does she then immediately latch onto you? Like, what is it with Touko wanting to pursue a relationship where she knows that the other person won't ever fall for her, and yet she still wants to give herself completely to it? One immediate reading is insecurity. Touko never expected herself to feel anything like this for anyone. And so she's happy even if it's not reciprocated. And that's really setting a low bar for herself and points to some really concerning self-esteem issues. However, there could also be a more positive interpretation, considering our discussion about like non-conventional forms of love. Just playing devil's advocate for a moment, Touko might be embracing a radical reimagining of romantic relationships. She may believe that emotional satisfaction does not depend on reciprocity and understands love as this mutual exploration rather than this sort of more traditional transactional exchange. Maybe she feels this very unique emotional and intellectual compatibility with you. And sees that they could build intimacy on emotional understanding rather than conventional romance. So for Touko, that's good enough for her as long as it's okay with you. And you know, by the end of episode 3, there certainly seemed to be a shift towards a more comfortable acceptance of this very unusual arrangement. Yu doesn't mind Touko's attention, and Touko is really happy to dote on her without expecting any sort of reciprocal affection. But I don't know, even as I say all of that, instinctively, I kind of am still leaning more towards the first reading, which is that Touko's persistent pursuit of you, despite a very clear lack of reciprocal romantic feelings. I think it reveals a potentially troubling pattern of emotional self-doubt and like this very unhealthy attachment. I feel like she's definitely putting herself in a very vulnerable position where she could get seriously hurt down the track. What's even worse is that her behavior could be interpreted as a form of self-punishment due to some very deep-rooted insecurities and a lack of self-respect. You know, like, I'm not good enough to have an equal reciprocal love with someone. It's like she has this internalized belief that her own emotional needs are secondary. That sort of belief can stem from these unresolved childhood issues or traumas. And in fact, in episode 3, we did learn about Touko's childhood dependency on someone, probably her older sister, who gave Touko that sense of security. But then suddenly that security was just taken away from her. Something traumatic happened, forcing Touko to feel like she had to transform herself into that person to regain her bearings again. I used to be nothing and I can't go back to that. Like, if we just stop and think about what that really means, it means that in trying to become her sister, like to preserve that lost presence by embodying it herself, Touko has really trapped herself in this impossible situation. Her fear of returning to nothing implies that she viewed and still does view her pre-trauma self as so worthless that it required her to become someone else. There isn't a universe in which she sees her old self or her true self as deserving of love and recognition. So put another way, her fear of not being special is really a fear of being herself. And then linking that back to you, Toko's fear of being herself is of course linked to her desire to love you despite knowing or because knowing that you will not reciprocate those feelings. So we theorize that when Touko transformed into her sister after losing her, it probably wasn't just about, honoring her sister's memory. It was also this fundamental rejection of her original self as being inadequate or being nothing. In that case, loving someone who can't love her back actually serves that very damaged image of herself in a couple of ways. First, it makes Touko feel really safe. Because when you're in a genuine relationship, genuine reciprocal relationship, you do have to show your true self to your partner. But if you isn't interested in falling in love, then logically, Touko never has to reveal her authentic or her true self, the self that she believes is unworthy, to her. She can kind of just exist in their relationship as her carefully maintained persona. And it's actually kind of an elegant solution if it wasn't so sad. Secondly, as we kind of said before, it's a form of self-punishment. Touko probably believes that she doesn't deserve love because her real self, her old self, is unlovable. And so pursuing you, someone who won't love her back, becomes a form of like emotional self-flagellation that confirms that negative perception of herself. Finally, I think Yu's emotional unavailability, at least romantically, mirrors Touko's own inner conflict. Just as Touko cannot accept her true old self, she's drawn to someone who can't fully accept her emotionally or romantically. And if any of that is true, then that's really, really sad. Let's just pull back from that very depressing brink for a moment, because maybe there is a silver lining in all of this, that Touko is also drawn to you because she, unlike everyone else, does not put Touko on a pedestal. And that is actually a good thing. Even Sayaka, Touko's best friend, has this very rose-colored view of Touko's competence, and that has to put a whole bunch of pressure on Touko, especially now that we know what she was like before. But you saw through that facade. And that was a moment where I was like, hang on, this relationship actually might be good for them after all. When you made it clear that Touko doesn't always have to project that strong, perfect image, that it's okay to not be special, something shifted. So previously you did have an issue and was disappointed with Touko not being special because she had realized that Touko was susceptible to romantic feelings. But now it's sort of like she's okay with Touko's norminess because she realized that Touko needs someone with whom she can be vulnerable with, to be human with. And I think this sympathy from you transformed their initially kind of superficial utilitarian sort of relationship into something more, into a relationship where they can actually emotionally support each other. And actually that shift ultimately led you to accepting Touko's request for her to join the student council with her. And in fact, I thought that that unscripted part of Yu's speech was very smart. Like instead of saying that Touko needs help because, she can't do it herself, she framed it as even someone as brilliant as Touko could benefit from help, just like we all do. And it struck this really nice balance, I thought, of letting Touko know that she isn't alone, that she doesn't have to do everything herself and be this perfect person all the time, while also protecting the secret of her vulnerability. Also, you eventually being like, okay, even kind of happy with her relationship with Touko, that was kind of crystallized in her reaction to Touko's gift of that star projector thing. Her admitting that she likes the stars and the star projector itself, I think, was profoundly symbolic. Stars represent the idealized romantic love that Yu has struggled her whole life to understand. But the artificial projection of stars, it was like an acknowledgement that romantic love itself is this constructed emotional experience. And the fact that Yu was happy with these like artificially projected stars suggests that rather than continue to struggle reaching this unattainable emotional goal, like the real stars, she's kind of just going to enjoy their constructed representation. Touko was the one who brought the stars into her immediate space by not only giving her the star projector, but by drawing her into this relationship. And sure, it's not the conventional idealized romance where both people are madly in love with each other, but it is something. It's not nothing. It seems Yu is going to appreciate that connection on her own terms as she does and kind of just see where it goes. Maybe the projection itself is satisfying enough and she doesn't have to worry about the unattainable, original, real thing. I also thought it was fascinating how Yu does not exhibit the kind of self-confidence issues that Touko does. She doesn't get why Touko is so hung up on coming across as being special to everyone else, because she certainly doesn't feel the need to put up a front. You know, she actually comes across as this very authentic, blunt kind of person. Like what you see is what you get. That doesn't mean that Yu has no struggles though. Like even though Yu doesn't feel pressured to put on this personality front, she does question her own emotional capacity to love, especially in a world that valorizes romance in a way that is still kind of frustratingly foreign to her. At the end of episode 3, I did wonder what Yu meant when she said that she hadn't realized yet that she'd have to give something up in order to stay close to Touko. I think it means that eventually being in this relationship will force you to maybe compromise on her current emotional boundaries or to engage with certain emotional terrain that she typically avoids. The something that she has to give up could be her emotional detachment, I don't know, and like the comfortable distance that she normally maintains from intense feelings. There's always an emotional cost to intimacy. And because this line, I think, was spoken by future Yu, I wonder, had she known about that cost, would she still have moved forward with this new relationship with Touko? I'd just like to dedicate a moment to Sayaka, you know, the supposed perfect match for Touko. I mean, God knows she wants to be. And ironically, that's exactly why Sayaka is not even in the running, because Touko is not interested in anyone who is interested in her. And so I do feel bad for Sayaka. You know, she's kind of going along with Touko's wants and desires, but she doesn't really understand why Touko is so keen on this upstart Yu. At times, I mean, her comments towards Yu felt like kind of barbed, but they were never blunt enough that you could be really sure that she's actually being mean. For example, like just before they had to do their election speeches, Sayaka kind of went up to Yu and was like, oh, even if you mess up, Touko will make it work. You know, it was like, it just sounded very backhanded and not actually supportive of Yu. So I think as Touko and Yu's relationship deepens and they spend more and more time with each other, it's definitely not going to be so easy for Sayaka to just kind of stand aside. Bloom Into You, episode 4. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, play. It's a very neat room. No, I'm always so nervous because I wonder when Touko is going to really want you to actually be in this relationship in the same way that she is. I don't know if we'll ever see those flowers blooming underneath you. Maybe it's just gonna be water the whole time. I loved the metaphor of the star projector. It's kind of like, you know, the whole message of you don't necessarily have to reach the stars to have the stars come to you, or you don't have to experience the stars, i.e., romantic love, in exactly the same way that most people think you should. But for now, they're happy. So. I mean, Sayaka's definitely going to notice something very different. Mm. Again, classic misconception. Hmm. Romance fanfic. 'Cause what was underneath Koyomi's table? It was like dead leaves. That guy. Just like, ooh. It's wanting the tea. Mm. Her face. It's like, please keep it in your pants. It's that awkward like balancing of what do you show to others? How do you present yourselves to others? Self-serving, that's fine. Mm. First sign of a great leader is like being good at making other people do your work. Look at that confidence. Just like the hand on the hip. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to be on a student council. I mean, I know it probably looks good on your end of year results. Like theater show? Music show? Oh my god. Talk if they're gonna do like Romeo and Juliet with Touko playing Romeo and you playing Juliet. I can just see it now. I feel like Touko is just scheming any way possible to get closer to you within reason. It's like, oh, we're just doing theater for this culture fest. She will make it happen. I have no doubt. Good boy. Oh. You work on backstage. Yeah. Oh, hey, there's that mask thing. Like from the opening. Mm. Mm. Take the hint. They're like, we can be alone now. Yeah, see, you kind of gets dragged in. But she's kind of okay with it as well. This is the same sort of lighting and time when like they had their first confession. So drawn out. Oh my god. Ooh. Oh, he's shutting her down. That's so weird how they were like, wait, did they kiss or did they not? Because they just cut it out. I mean, not exactly you know, an affirmation, but oh my god. I feel like we shouldn't be watching this. This is so private. I feel like he's just like, hopefully, it's gonna be different to the first time, but isn't really sure if it is going to be different. Because you can't know unless you try, right? Oh god, please don't have someone watching through the window. Who was that? Oh, it's the good boy? I forgot his name. Maki. I feel like Maki will keep it to himself. He's gonna be like, none of my business. I'm just a support guy. I feel like he'll be cool with it. You know, he may not like fully understand it, but he seems cool. Oh my god, he's fishing. What are you doing, Maki? You're gonna be like third wheeling? This is very stressful. What is he thinking? He's being a bit devious, isn't he? Not if she's actually not interested. I don't think he is easy to convince. I mean, it's just all part of it, right? This is just an extension of her masking. She is good at acting. She's been doing it since, I guess, she was a child. Ah, he just got this little like smile. He's like, I know what's up. Just enjoying this little Yuri drama that only he knows about. Wait, which two is he talking about? Or Sayaka? Oh, okay. Yeah. He's like, oh, and the third weird option. Maki. I like Maki. He's like, why do we have to have boxes? You know, categories. Man, I knew there's going to be like, they were going to focus on her stopping because she's like, oh, God. Yeah. She doesn't like that. Oh man, I feel like Maki's treading dangerous waters here. Sayaka just coping. It will get harder and harder though to contain that like probably bubbling rage that Sayaka's feeling. I mean, Maki still digging. Wow, just like knives out. Oh, interesting. Like camera. Oh no. Oh no. Oh man. It was so fascinating that she was really more concerned about Touko. Yeah. Because she knows how fragile Touko is, actually. I think Maki's cool though. Like, I think he'll get it. Yeah. Interesting. I feel like Maki's like a shipper. I actually feel like he's kind of also similar to you in a way that he observes people being in love, but he's kind of outside of it himself. He also has these ideas of ideal love that he took from media and stuff, just like you. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. I feel like maybe that's taking it a little bit far, Maki. It's. Oh. Oh. I don't know. Mixed feelings. Could be voyeuristic. Could be supportive. Could be both. It's weird. Like he's definitely on their side, but because he wants to keep the story going and for his eyes only, kind of. In her own way, maybe. Good point, actually. That's like a really important component of being in a real relationship is like when you're thinking about the other person more than yourself. Okay, is there a post-credit scene? No, there isn't. I really enjoyed this episode. Not only because we got more insight into Maki, who I loved how we got that kind of short, but I guess adequate insight into how he isn't really into, like, because he is such a good listener, because, you know, he reads a lot of romance stories, obviously, and he's really in tune with how people feel and the complications that are involved in romantic relationships. And he kind of applies that knowledge to his friends and his circle, who are all embroiled in that kind of relationship. When a girl is like, oh my gosh, this guy really gets it, and I feel really comfortable talking to him, maybe, you know, there's something romantic there between him, he immediately shuts down. It's because he's not actually interested in helping people through their complicated love lives. It's more he enjoys the thrill of being an up close observer of those types of relationships. That's why before I was like kind of mixed feelings, because there is an unavoidably voyeuristic element to that. You know, you're being involved in people's lives, or you're, if not involved, then you're kind of in and amongst people, because you're kind of observing them like you would observe animals in a zoo. Or it's like you're watching people's struggles and relationships as you would watch a show that you yourself, yes, are invested in, but only invested in for its entertainment value, and not so much because you really deeply care for the people. What an interesting character. I don't know. I would love to see what other people think about MAKI-KUN and his basically admitting to just really enjoying these, like, people's life dramas. And now that he's kind of uncovered this blossoming relationship between Touko and you, and he's all like for it, obviously, because this is really something that catches his eye and his attention, and it's like, wow, this is going to be an amazing intellectual journey, and I can just pass, like, you know, relationship between two girls, and like that they have to keep it secret, and the fact that he is already making observations about how it seemed like it was a one-sided affection from Touko, but in fact, you is starting to reciprocate, if not in exactly the same way as Touko feels for her, in her own way, in the sense that she is actually coming to care for Touko. And that's the other thing that I really enjoyed seeing more of in this episode, is you unconsciously almost being concerned for Touko in a way that she really didn't expect herself to, at least at this when they started this relationship. Some things still remain the same, like when they had that second kiss, you know, and you is still feeling just jealous or really disappointed that she still can't make herself feel that sort of giddy rush of emotion that Touko has when they're in that sort of situation. So she's still like a distance from this ideal form of love that, again, she has been, um, I guess, trained to believe is true romantic love. And she's very like wary of what other people see when they're together, and it's kind of all a little bit stressful. But yeah, it was fascinating to see a sort of evolution in the way that you thinks about this relationship. One last quick observation I'd make is there's also a lot of interesting just double meanings when they were talking about this theatre show that Touko wants to put on, that past student councils have. And her talking about how, you know, she wouldn't even mind being the lead actress. It just calls back all of those things about Touko actually acting, like becoming this completely different person, embodying the qualities and the physical appearance of her sister that she lost. And she's been doing it for years and years at this point, and has managed to make everyone else around her except you believe that she is this person, this perfectly kept together person that she wants them to see. And I was watching this, I was like, is there a point where you play this role where you act as someone that's not actually who you started out as, but then the more you inhabit that personality, maybe you do, or at least part of you does become that person. Like, where is that line where the past you dissolves and it's been replaced by the new you? I think that question is interesting too, because we all experience that ourselves. The person I was 20 years ago was definitely not the person that I am today because of these experiences that we go through and self-reflections, and sort of sometimes we do actively work on ourselves in changing certain aspects of our personality. And sometimes that can be good, like where you become better, more patient, more loving, less anxious, stuff like that. Or it can also, change can be for bad. Or you could be, suppressing certain parts of yourself that you really shouldn't be suppressing. So it's actually that question of, how much should a person change is actually really complicated, because the fact is we change all the time. And I guess with Touko, it's like kind of trying to pass how much of the change that she made herself go through, how much of that was actually beneficial, and how much of it is still suppressing a part of herself, the true part of herself, that she really should have accepted. I'm excited. I am excited to get to episode 5. So if you guys are ready, let's do it in 3, 2, 1, play. Mm. Uh, that's me. I mean, technically, a study guide. I mean, she also could be thinking too much, but I don't think so. It's kind of like cat and mouse. At the moment, Touko is definitely the cat. Wow, they set that up so well. It was like, wow, is Touko like really trying to corner you? But then it's like, well, I mean, yes, she is, but not to that extent. That was amazing. Oh, Akari. I wonder why it was that she was happy. I don't know. Something's probably developing with that crush of hers in basketball club. Also, it was interesting. I mean, I guess Touko has always been open with her affection, even in front of like other people of the student council. But I just thought she seems to be becoming more forward, even when there are other people around. I mean, I know it was Maki at the back there, and he's definitely hasn't told Touko yet that he saw them kiss, because I think she wouldn't be. So, I mean, you was right to be like, please don't tell Touko that you saw us, because it would just totally crush her self-image, I guess, and she'd just be so paranoid about what everyone would think of her. Yeah. even if everyone was supportive, which probably isn't the case. Um, yeah, she'd just be worried and paranoid. Maki. Just fishing for like some tea. Mm. What's Touko thinking there? Is she like, oh, these two are getting awfully close. That's the guy that like liked her. Hmm. I don't know. Maybe they're both right, like Maki and you. Like Yu's feelings for Touko have definitely evolved, but maybe they're not quite what Maki thinks they are. Again, just different. Not exactly romantic, but something. Mm, just keep expectations low. And she trusts you to do it. I mean, she does work at a bookstore. Yeah. I wonder if she's based it on people that they know at school. I mean, that's usually where you find your inspiration, right? People you already know. Mm. It is interesting how like use hesitancy to be in a relationship or in any relationship. It does kind of link back to her whole she's not really sure what she wants in anything, really. Like what she wants to study later, which club she wants to join. It's all linked. Oh, I think Toko's gonna think that she likes Maki. Oh my god, it's just setting them up. He just needed to do like a big wink. I mean, studying at the library is the perfect undercover date, you know. What was that? She's doing a scope. Like, who's watching? Oh my god, she's gonna sneak a peck. She's. Oh, okay. I thought she was gonna like just go for it because there's no one else around. Oh man. Those train signals again. It's so funny how these sounds and these scenes are just like imprinted in my memory and it's like triggering in the first episode or the first and second episodes. Does she feel bad for not returning Tako's romantic advances too, though? That's so true. And apparently Toko is fine with that as well. Apparently. I don't know. Oh, she definitely is blowing off her other friends to be with you. It's that same phrase. I don't hate it. But it would probably, ooh, that's so rough. I mean, it's so ambiguous. Go home. Mm. Oh my god, this is the setup. This is the bed setup, isn't it? They're alone in their room, and then it's like they're studying on the bed, and then. Hmm. I bet Toko that scenario ran through her head immediately when you was like, please come to my place. Oh, it's so nice. It's so anytime anyone else brings up the possibility that they might be dating, except for MAKI-KUN, they're like kind of bring it up as a joke or like a, oh, of course it will never happen because it's two girls, you know? So they have to romance novels out. Touko, calm yourself. She's like, oh my god, that's where you sleeps. uh, it's right next to her on the bed. I mean, next to the bed. Must be important. Only when the boyfriend comes over. I mean, I kind of assumed that that was her sister's boyfriend. Oh, oh, here we go. Thank you. So dramatic. Yeah, I feel like you would be like, if you want to know something about her, you have to ask and ask specifically. Can't be like, oh, tell me more about you, because then she'll be like, hmm. No, it's the fact that you're alone in a room with a bed. Why would that's weird crawling towards someone like that? You knows what she's doing, right? Does you find her cute like that? I don't know. Maybe. It's kind of asking as like an analytical observation. Use like, huh, how interesting. Scribbles in scientific notepad. It's like she's collecting data points. And then she does things like this to see what happens. Yeah, ironically, Maki. I mean, that's what Toka's thinking, right? Man, he's just laughing up all that tea. Oh no, it's becoming a problem now. I mean, at least use upfront about it. Because you can't make a clean cut. Oh, yeah. So it's that aspect that hasn't really changed from the first episode. It's like she still doesn't really feel the way that Touko feels about her. She is, however, willing to stay out of a sense of responsibility. I just want to help. We will soon have a Touko made cheesecake. She's really, really not that great at hiding things, Touko. What a choice of words. Mm. I love that really short shot of like the grandma and you being like, oh, that my grandma had, you know, love. Hey, I mean that's new, isn't it? Like being like, oh yeah, I do have someone in a special way. Oh my god. You sister, it's just like maybe just set off a little bit. Now there's two people setting them up, MAKI-KUN and you sister. Decide for me. Oh man, I always end these episodes with such mixed feelings. The whole Touko not getting the same return of love or affection from you, it's slowly but surely becoming a problem. Because it's like, how do you contain all of these intense emotion that you feel for someone when they're just giving nothing back to you? If Touko was my friend, I would be telling her to just cut this relationship off entirely because I'm like, this is going to end in burning flames. You know, you're going to devote yourself to this person, invest 100% emotionally into being with them, and they're not even sure if you're someone that they want to be with. They're kind of just letting themselves be dragged around by you because you, at least, is like, well, I don't have these feelings for you. But neither is she extricating herself from the situation and making sure that Toko's feelings for her don't grow even more than they already are there. If I was on Toko's side, like, I mean, if I was advising her as a friend, I'd be like, just get yourself out of this situation before you really, really get hurt. I would almost even like say that you is in one sense leading Toko on, even though I know that's not really how it is, because it's more like Toko is, sort of serving herself up on a platter. Toko does get something out of this relationship with you because it's like you is the one person who makes her feel like she can be herself. And you is genuinely wanting to help Toko through the responsibilities of being the president and just her debilitating fear of other people finding out that she's actually not as strong as she looks. Like, I understand all of that. And I think it's actually genuinely moving that they have that friendship to build on. The problem is when one side is getting super wrapped up and distracted and all flustered by these romantic feelings they can't help but have for the other person. And the other person's like, I mean, honestly, it could be anyone that I'm studying with in the library. It didn't have to be you. Like, it's just so lopsided and there's just no way around that. And I am like, ugh, I don't know. You could argue that Toko knows exactly what she's getting into, exactly the kind of hole that she's digging for herself. Lest we forget, it was Toko who sort of came up with this whole contractual arrangement. I think they've just shown so well as this story has progressed how blurry the lines can get as to who's responsible for what. Like, who's responsible for kind of stopping or stepping away from a relationship when it could end in someone getting seriously hurt at the end, and who's responsible for kind of pursuing something that they know isn't necessarily the best for them, but is kind of just like going along with it because at the moment it serves its purpose for them. Again, I'm just going to throw it out to you guys because I honestly think there's just several equally legitimate ways of looking at this unfolding situation. And I think in real life, it would come down to who are you closer to? I've definitely had friends who have come to me with relationship problems or just like either it's unrequited feelings, sort of like Toko situation, where the other person whom I don't know is not reciprocating, but they're also kind of hanging out all the time and it's like causing all this confusion. And I'm 100%, I'm always like, just end it because it's going to end in a lot of pain if you don't take yourself out of this one-sided relationship. But this is different because we're sort of seeing their thoughts and feelings from all sides. Like, we're deep into how Yu thinks about love and how she really has this really deep desire to have emotional intimacy and is in fact very sure that it won't take the same form as it does for Toko or for everyone else. And I think that's also like a position that deserves a lot of empathy or sympathy as well. So yeah, I'm just all mixed up. I don't have a strong position at this point. Maybe if I rewatch the episodes more and think about it a bit more. Last episode for today, episode 6 in 3, 2, 1, play. Not awkward at all. Okay. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I really don't know. It's not impossible to. Well, it's kind of like, in a way, arranged marriages in the sense that you find yourself with this person, you may not necessarily have chosen it, but genuine feelings and love can grow over time. So maybe that would be an intriguing development and very different to how a lot of other shows treat romance. I just realized that the mask that you puts over her face is Toko's face. Whereas Toko's is just, oh, it is used as well. Hmm, that is interesting. They're putting on each other's faces. So could it be like they're really trying to step into each other's shoes and as a result they get closer that way? It has been 7 years. Again, always wanting to be special. Koyomi? They said that out. I mean, but she only writes novels though. Sayaka is not happy with you. Probably has kind of wished that she never appeared in their lives. Oh, is this going to be the Sayaka loses it episode? Mm. God, her eyes are just so dead. Mm, weird foreboding. I mean, that's not fair. It's not obligated. It's not her writing. Oh my god, there's like 50-50 chance that she's just going to pour that coffee over her. She knows. I I disagree with Sayaka's framing of that. She's not preventing like Touko from doing a show. Maybe she is. Oh, her sister. Her sister did it. Oh my god. She's like, this is above your pay grade. Ooh, that tone. The VO did great with that. Just like veiled threat. Like back off. Ah, it all makes sense now. Okay. Gotta give Sayaka credit because she knows how much this theatre show means to Touko because it's related to her sister. Her sister was probably the last one that did it before she passed away. But I mean, you couldn't have known that either. Touko's got it. Maybe? She's gonna ask her to do the script, eh? Because and she can trust that you will just straight up say what she thinks. Like with the Cuddy. There she goes again. Just kind of arranging things so that Touko will benefit. That's love. I mean, if this teacher was there, he can probably just straight up tell her, right? I wonder how Touko feels knowing that you also has an older sister. It's kind of like, let's make her a little bit sad. Nanami is Except she's not. Like, she made herself that. She doesn't naturally like that. I guess that feeling of being nothing would have been, yeah, magnified by having this sister who was, in everyone else's eyes, everything. Maybe it's good that she doesn't do it, actually. Yeah. Because Sayaka, like, yes, she is aware of Toko's situation and that she wears a mask and all that. But Sayaka isn't one to say no to Toko or be like, what you're doing is probably not the best. She'll just be like, whatever you want, I'm going to give you. And that's not necessarily the best thing for Toko, whereas Yu is not afraid to tell it as it is. I wonder when they said traffic accident if it was being hit by a train, because I feel like I've had a lot of significant moments at train crossings. And that was you being like active, you know, rarely, but it was like she's the one who's like, I need to talk to you. My God, not pulling any punches. Sorry, but not sorry. It's good. She needs to talk about this. I mean, probably with a trained professional, but this is a good start. Yes, just be yourself. That is true love, true friendship. Just being upfront and honest, not being afraid to say the hard stuff. And like affirming the person. They don't have to be someone else, you know? That sound again. That's another huge step forward for you. Oh my God, that is the worst. Oh my God. That is the worst thing to say to a younger sibling in that situation. My God. That's probably her uniform as well, isn't it? Yo, this is the first time that Touko is pulled away from her. Oh my god, she almost face planted. Man, but man, you're fighting years of deeply ingrained like self-hate. And there's that too. She's so confident. But she can be with her. Just getting closer and closer. That will make Touko turn back to her because, oh my god, this is also so messed up in a way. But then maybe it's not. Okay, this is good. This is good. Like, this part of the relationship is good. Don't fall in love with me? Is that what you're gonna say? Don't say it. Oh, okay. And she's like, yes, because I want to see what that feels like. It is cute. Okay. Okay, that's gonna be the problem. Oh, it was such a real, raw episode. Holy crap. There's a scene after this, so we'll just let it run. I'm trying to sort of process like where we're at in this moment. Because I'm so torn. Like, I spent a whole part of the first part of this video sort of ranting about how, love can be experienced in different ways, and there's not just one way to know love, or even romantic love can come in many different forms that don't necessarily comply with the conventional paradigm. So I guess when they were stepping towards each other over the river, it was like consensual. Like, there's definitely consent on both sides to this relationship. For Touko, it's like, as long as you doesn't fall in love with her for real and doesn't expect her to reveal her true self, then it's fine. And for you, she wants to learn about love and to experiment and to experience love in a way that she hasn't had an opportunity to thus far. And so that works for her as well. And so in that sense, they're like the perfect match. But underlying that perfect match is just this sort of uncomfortable sense that they're also not facing things that they really should be, and not dealing with, well, at least in Toko's case, not dealing with trauma that has to be dealt with if she's ever going to actually experience relationships in a truly healthy, fulfilling way. Because at the moment, and we learn a lot more about her obsession with becoming a sister, it's because everyone else around her, she thought, wanted her to become a sister. And what was it she said? She was like, everyone else seemed happier when I did become my sister. So I've had to suppress that part of myself, and I'm going to keep doing it no matter what you say, you. Yes. Wait, is that Toko's voice? Yeah. Oh, it's like, oh, so she doesn't have to. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I mean, she's shackling you, being like, don't you ever change the way that you don't fall in love with me. I was like, that's what I said. Oh my God. This is so crazy. So, the reason, well, I kind of feel like we touched on it earlier as well. The reason why Toko was so drawn to you and fell in love with her is because knowing that you can't love or experience romantic love, uh, Toko doesn't have to deal with those issues that have laid dormant for so long, and issues that she has repressed. The whole issue of her not facing up to the reality that she really isn't the same as her sister. Like, she is pouring all of her energy, her entire life, everything that she has into maintaining this facade that she is her sister. And you allows her to maintain that while also solving, the other problem, which is the problem of loneliness. Well, it kind of solves the problem for the both of them, really. It's so, I've never felt so mixed. Like, it's just making me feel all of these very mixed feelings. Like, I'm happy that they have found each other, because God, it had to be such a unique matching of two very specifically defined people that just kind of complement each other in terms of both their strengths and their insecurities. Like, Toko, obviously, being unafraid to show love and affection is really allowing you to explore that part of herself that she never really thought she'd ever get a chance to, while you allows for Toko to um, keep that lie. I mean, is it even a lie at this point when she's done it for so long? Facade, let's say, of being her sister. You allows her to keep that going without facing any of the demons of, her actual true self, who isn't confident, who is shy, who does feel weak and unpopular and all of that. So I don't know, it's mutual partnership that I think is beneficial and could still lead to something positive for them both. I mean, maybe like as they spend more time together, they'll start to grow in the courage to actually face their own inner demons. Because it's always easier to face your deepest, darkest fears of yourself when you have someone you can trust, right? I feel like I'm just ranting at this point, but one last thing I'd say, sort of before passing it off to you guys in the comments. Man, the comments are going to be fun this time. But I thought it was such a huge, giant step for you to admit to herself that she wants to change. And I know that I guess she's always wanted to experience romantic love as she has learnt it to be from other people and from the media and all of that. But it feels like when she said it this time, because she has an actual person in front of her towards whom she can direct all of that energy towards changing, she has someone with whom she could actually maybe see a future with, in the sense that this is the person who could actually help me develop these feelings of love that I thought that I could never have. The problem with that is she knows that Touko will immediately just switch off of her and leave her once again alone and floundering as soon as that change happens. And so there's that really intractable conflict there that I have no idea how it's going to resolve itself. I guess I will let my thoughts stew for a little bit more. I look forward to seeing what everyone thinks about this. And thank you so much for watching this incredible show with me. Oh God, it just makes you feel so many things. And it just really makes you kind of have to expand your boundaries on what is a relationship and what is okay and not okay in a relationship, and just how flexible can this concept of love and being in love be. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to watching more Bloom Into You with you guys next time.